G'day guys, Luke here. Welcome back to another video. In today's guys, we're looking at part 2 of common illnesses in reptiles. Today we're looking at neurological abscesses and cancer. The first illness we're covering off is neurological, or neuro for short. Now, what are some symptoms of neuro? Basically, your animal has no coordination whatsoever. It looks like it has having difficulty moving around, being lethargic, and as well having abnormal movements and postures as well. So what causes an animal to have neuro? Now, it could be a range of things from having bacterial, fungal, parasites, but most of the time I find it's usually a lot of inbreeding with reptiles. And of course, when you have multiple generations of mum and dad being related, things are not going to look pretty. Probably the best example in human terms would be the royal family a few hundred years ago, when they started kind of, doing their thing. It wasn't pretty. So same thing applies with basically animals as well. How do you prevent your animals getting neuro in the first place? Now, if it's something like bacterial, fungal, or even parasites, making sure you have a nice clean enclosure and do regular maintenance to make sure nothing is wrong with that. And when it comes to inbreeding, the best result is to stop putting brother and sister together to make the babies with the bloodline. Trying to at least go outside of the gene pool to try to find a healthy bloodline to continue that tradition. When you have a reptile that does have neuro, the only thing you can do is basically give it as much comfort as you can, because there's no treatment for an animal that has neuro, unfortunately. We're going to look at abscesses now. So, of course, symptoms would be swelling and abnormal lumps developing on your reptile or in the reptile's mouth in general as well. Atrium or diamond python has gone through that in the past, where it had an infection in its jaw that caused an abscess, and of course, we'll talk about that. So what causes a reptile to have an abscess? So it could be a couple of things, from having a foreign object or tooth penetrating the gum or skin, and bacteria just starts to go in and form an infection. Or we got a little parasite that decided to be a pain and have that abscess flare up. Preventing your reptile getting an abscess is quite easy by keeping your enclosures nice and clean and regularly changing the substrate. And of course, every now and again, just check your animal out and make sure there's nothing abnormal showcasing with your animal. If your reptile does have an abscess, the only thing you can do is probably go to a veterinarian who can suss out what kind of abscess we're dealing with. Once you have a bit of a talk to them and they work out what the problem may be, they'll basically have a plan of action, give you some antibiotics, and then hopefully soon the abscess dies down, or may end up bursting depending what happens with that. And if it bursts, let your veterinarian know, who can at least tell you what to do there. Our last illness we're going to cover off for this video is cancer, and unfortunately this one, it kind of sucks for me. I've had a couple of animals die from cancer, so it's kind of something I'm a little bit too familiar with. So very much like abscesses, you start to get swelling and abnormal growths with the animal. The animal starts getting lethargic, it's like eating or falling off food entirely. And yeah, it's just the body weight condition and everything, all that changes quite rapidly. So what causes cancers in reptiles can be a few different things, from too strong of a UV output. So let's say you have a species of reptiles that are used to the high UV intensity. You can get skin cancer like us, where we're going out in the sun for too long without the appropriate protection. Otherwise, sometimes virus and as well as bacterial stuff can cause cancers, which is kind of a silent thing that builds up before you know it's a serious problem. And sometimes it lays dormant from genetic stuff, like a genetic mutation, and before you know it could just one day activate, and it happens so quickly. So yeah, when it comes to, I guess, radiation as well as virus and bacteria, the only way to prevent that is having the appropriate UVB not to cause too strong of an output, as well as cleaning the enclosure quite regularly to prevent airborne viruses and bacteria causing cancer. If it's genetic related, unfortunately there's nothing you can do. It's something you probably never pick up in the first place. And when your animal does have cancer, the only way to treat it is by going to a veterinarian and see what they can do for it. Sometimes the animal might be saved, sometimes it might not be saved, depending on how aggressive the cancer is and where it is. That will be it for part 2 of this series. Next episode we're looking at respiratory infections, eye infections, scar rot, and mouth rot, which will be a fun one to cover off. So thank you guys all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.